to welcome you to our presentation on the Global Digital Library today. I'm Jennifer Gerst, the Project Director with the Global Reading Network. We have been working with our colleagues at the Global Book Alliance and in Norway Digital Learning Arena and the Global Digital Library for some time. So this is very exciting for us. We've been asking for the presentation to implementers to provide you information about how you can get engaged and involved. So we're really happy that Christer Gunderson is in town with us today in person for you to meet him and hear from him. Just to let you know, in terms of the Global Reading Network, we've had quite a few conversations over the last few months. We had colleagues join us to talk about track and trace. We've had colleagues join us to talk about Creative Commons, and we do want to keep this conversation alive. So before I leave today, I'll share some thoughts with you, and we hope that we'll have you again here in the near future. I'll let you know some things that are coming up. I wanted to turn over to Robert Birch, who's with us. He's the Deputy Director of the Office of Education, the Bureau of Economic Growth, Education, and Empowerment at USAID. He is going to share with us a few opening remarks about the Global Digital Library and USAID's engagement with it. And Robert, would you like to join us?
Sure. Goodness, an applause so early, and I haven't even said anything yet. But thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to say a few words on behalf of USAID in regards to the presentation that we're going to have this morning on the Global Digital Library. I'd like to start by recognizing the Global Reading Network, URC, Jennifer Gerst, and her whole team, who have organized and are hosting us here today for this important event. I'd also like to thank Christer Gunderson for traveling all the way from Norway, I think, on this trip. He's always traveling somewhere. To be here in person to present this to us, because there's no better person to do this than Christer, because he really has been supporting this initiative and been very, very much motivated and excited about the possibilities of how this can help to transform early grade reading across the globe. And I'd also like to thank everyone who's joined us this morning, particularly Charles North, who actually used to be with us at USAID and a huge supporter of the Global Book Alliance, and also one of the very, very early supporters of this idea of a global digital library that could help to solve the problem of getting reading materials and books into the hands of children in the countries that we're working with. So that may have been 2 years ago, I'm not sure, but it's taken us a little while. But I'm really glad that he's here today to see the fruits of his encouragement to all of us at USAID. And also those of you that are on the line, welcome, and we're very glad that you're joining us. So the Global Digital Library is a flagship initiative under the Global Book Alliance. And the Global Book Alliance is a very innovative partnership amongst several donors and also other education stakeholders, whose aim it is to transform the world's book chain to ensure that children have access to reading materials, books in languages that they understand. It's as simple as that. But the task is quite daunting when you actually look at the book chain and realize that we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, and there's a lot of things that we need to do to be able to help solve those challenges. One idea using technology is the idea of the Global Digital Library. And this library is an open platform where you can upload, download, repurpose, reprint books and other reading materials at low cost. And of course, that's something that's that's of great interest to USAID and our implementing partners, because we know the challenge out in the field. That is, in most of the countries that we're working in, we do not have access to quality reading materials. And when I say quality, I mean the kinds of reading materials and books we need to teach early grade reading. Decodable books, leveled readers, and readers that will help children practice their reading skills both in the classroom and at home. So that's what's so encouraging about this global digital library, because it's designed to serve that purpose. USAID and our implementing partners are very interested in seeing this go online so that we can more easily access reading materials in our reading programs. Currently, we spend quite a large percent of our budgets in the production and reproduction and delivery of reading materials and books, and we know that we need to find a better answer to doing this, and which will be much more economical for us. So we're excited about the library, and we're excited today to find out and learn more about it. I saw an early version of this probably a year ago, and I'm very excited to see where we are today. I'd also like to thank, again, URC and for their collaboration with USAID particularly, and also with the Global Book Alliance. We have a lot of alliances here. The Global Book Alliance, particularly Linda Hebert, who works at USAID, and Brooke Estes, who's here with us today. Linda's on vacation. She did send me an email this morning saying that she was not going to be able to join us, but they are really the people at USAID who are helping to support and move the Book Alliance forward. So we want to thank you, and thank you for the work with the collaboration together. And finally, I want to recognize Rebecca Rhodes, who is our probably most passionate person behind early grade reading, and who is really, leading the charge in ensuring that we find better ways of getting books and reading materials into the hands of the children in the classrooms that we're trying to work with overseas. So thank you very much, Rebecca. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to an exciting presentation and discussion this morning, and thank you for giving me your time.
Thanks, Robert. And I'm just going to take a few minutes to introduce Krister. Krister is a technology enthusiast, which you have to be to work on such a project as this. He brings a lot of passion to this. It's been really fun to work with him. So he's an enthusiast working to unlock the full potential of the internet by promoting a free and open web. He works as the Chief Technology Officer in the Norwegian digital learning arena with a strong focus on the development of open educational learning resources and free software. Krister is leading development of the Global Digital Library platform, and the Global Digital Library is being developed to increase the availability of high-quality mother tongue learning resources worldwide. He's going to do his presentation in two parts. He'll talk a bit about the platform first, but after we take our coffee break, then he will do a demo of the platform. So that will go in two parts, and we'll let you know that when we're pausing. We do encourage, if you have questions burning already, particularly online, if you want to put them in the chat, we'll keep an eye out for them, so when we're ready to open questions to the audience, that we'll try to summarize or get those out there. Okay? All right, Krister.
All right. So thank you guys for coming today. Thank you guys that are online for joining in. Thanks for this great presentation. I want to start because this is my second day after being on vacation. So I'm going to start by showing you a picture taken last week from a hiking trip in the north of Norway. My brother flexing his, I think it's muscles. The picture is taken just before midnight. So this is the midnight sun that you're seeing in the background.
Oh, wow.
So I'm here today to talk about the Global Digital Library, and it's really been a collaborative effort. The idea came out of a community here in Washington, I would say, some years ago, and at one point the Norwegian government stepped into the discussion and wanted to join in by providing funds for the platform itself. So that is my responsibility. Whenever I talk about content today, be aware that this is content developed by others. USAID, other projects have pitched in with a tremendous amount of resources to join into this project. I'm going to talk about the platform, and I'm going to talk about how we have developed it, and some of the ground principles of development of the platform, and I'm going to talk about content production, because we see that the great content that we have received so far has really been an important part of this journey, because without that content, without that high quality content, this platform is nothing. And because we see that many partners, they come to us and they ask questions of technical character, of more platform integration character. So I'm just going to walk briefly through those with you guys today. I'm also going to show a couple of examples of projects that are in the making. Where's Matt? So Matt is here. He's one of the projects doing great content production. The platform was launched in April of 2018 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Again, a collaboration between the American government, the Norwegian government, and the Ethiopian government. The reason for it being launched there was that we, at the time of launch, had 7 Ethiopian languages on the platform. A project funded by the American government in Ethiopia over quite some time. So the platform went live in April with 15 languages in total, mostly African languages, with one Asian language being Bangla. We're right now processing a number of other languages from Asia, and we will hit the 30 language mark. We will have 30 languages by the end of this year. Our goal is to provide 100 languages as a minimum by the end of 2020. And it's really, it seems like it seemed like an ambitious number when we started, but it's absolutely possible to reach that goal. And these are more or less languages where we have collaborating partners that provide high quality content, and we quality assure it before. We're doing 2 things right now. So we're developing the platform, and we're collecting content. And when we get the content to our platform, we're targeting to 3 user scenarios: mobile, web, and for print. And since we're named digital, many people associate us with being only digital, but we're actually producing the ability of doing sort of a platform agnostic approach to it, which means you can choose your own user scenario. If you have the need for print, you can print it. If you have mobile devices, you can do it on mobile, and web being the more general user scenario. And one of the things we've learned is that being platform agnostic is hard, it's difficult, but it's truly crucial. If you track back 10 years, try to remember what kind of devices we had at that point, what kind of platforms we had, and what we see is that we changed the way we use technology, changed the way we consume educational materials rapidly. And the users that we are targeting in Asia and Africa, mainly, are going to change their way of consuming content in a manner that we cannot foresee. So we're doing technical elements to the content that we get in to make it to make it platform agnostic in the best way we can. Because we cannot see into the future. I'm coming back to this afterwards, but what we see is that many of the content batches that we get in are in PDF. You probably nod your head. Yeah, we did it for print. We did it for PDF, and that is one of the things that we're trying to work on right now, to avoid all high quality content being developed only for PDF. I'll get back to that. One exciting thing for me personally, because I've been working with translation for many years as an alternative, is that we can, on the platform today, translate content into more than 100 languages. And this is not machine translation, this is human translation, where anyone actually can enter the platform, log in, and translate a book from one language to another. And of course, it will not be published back on the platform without quality assurance, but the platform itself supports that dynamic. And especially for those languages that have nothing from before, they can actually take high quality resources and then translate into their own language. We're using the same platform as Khan Academy, and it's called Crowding. And you get some process help in terms of translation and of course spelling in a number of languages. And the quality of this sort of aid that you get on your way is growing. It's a simple version of artificial intelligence because it learns more, growing with competence as more books are being translated in that language. So we've seen this progress, for instance, in Amharic, because we've had a large group of students and teachers playing and working with Amharic as a language. But this is an option we think for the future is going to be really, really important. Right now, we're focusing on original content being important. So this is still an avenue we haven't explored entirely. All the content on the platform is under a Creative Commons license at this point, which means two things. Any teacher, any parent, any kid can download and print or consume the content in any way they want. They can also change it, for instance, translate it. But the most exciting part is that most of the content that we have can also be monetized. You can make money of translations. You can also make money of translation and then printing for sale. This is an option that not many understand fully, but the Creative Commons licenses actually allow commercialization. Of course, some of the very high quality titles that we have will have what's called an NC clause, a non-commercial clause to it, but more than 90% of the titles on the platform are in the area where you actually can if you're a publisher in Kenya, you can actually take it and then sell the book after you print it. I personally also hope this is going to be one of the dynamic elements of the platform that will make this community grow, also beyond the GDL. We're mobile first. Very simple answer to that. Most of our users, they don't have tablets. If they access a tablet, it's in the school, and they don't have a computer. So at this point, more than 89% of our users on a daily basis will access the platform through a mobile telephone. I've mentioned this a couple of times. We're of course also doing print. The numbers in Africa, especially, are really the development of mobile coverage is going faster than we thought, and the number of users are growing. This is a number from the World Bank this spring. I think we're just past 1 billion users in Africa, and it's really growing. And of course, this is not helping everyone, but the mobile coverage is really. And also the capacity of download is astonishing. I was in Kenya just before I took a summer break now in July, and they had like 72 megabits. For those of you who are a bit technical, that is fast. That is YouTube and then some fast. And just a few years ago, that was not possible at all. So also, thinking the thought of doing more than just text and picture is really conceivable for both. I want to just talk briefly about some of the concepts that we're working on, because I think it all comes together for us at a point where we actually think about some basic concepts. And later in the talk, I'm going to go through some more technical issues. And they may not seem that important, but as we have developed this project, we see that focusing on what the user need is and what we think it's going to be is one of the core elements here. We want to emphasize the importance of designing with the user and not only for the user. This has been a core element of our project, and we started user involvement before we started the development itself. And for us, this is really something that is even more important because we are actually developing this platform from us. And going down the street by the office and starting testing wouldn't cut it at all. But designing with the user is one of our most important core elements. We've been testing in Nepal, Kenya, Cambodia, Ethiopia, of course, and Bangladesh. We did that last only 4 weeks ago. And there are new elements every time, and there are new surprises every time. I've been dead certain on many concepts on the platform. You know, I would just show it would work, and we had to change it. One of the very funny things are icons. Most of you guys would intuitively understand the search icon, you know, the magnifying glass. In Bangladesh, we understood that none of the kids had any concept of what that was. And the menu icon is sort of a hamburger with 3 lines. None of the kids have any clue of what that is. Of course, we then have to design the platform without that being a given parameter. Because everyone in the US, even if you're 4, would have grasped that. But these users, if you want to reach the marginalized users, you have to have that in mind. And personally, I was surprised for me just a month ago. Until that point, we had actually built the solution on many elements, those two included. This girl here, she's one of the users that before we started testing with her, she had never seen a smartphone before. And she was playing Subway Surf. Anyone has played Subway Surf? She was playing Subway Surf after just 15 minutes. She wouldn't give the phone back. Briefly just mentioning this because this is also important in terms of this being a collaborative effort. We have been reusing components, reusing content, and reusing design principles in the entire project. So just to be really, really clear on this, all content has been given to us by other projects releasing their content under a free license. This is really, really something that it's not entirely new, but at this scale, it is new. We've also reused an app from New York Public Library, not in this domain at all. They're only focusing on the American market. And I want to just bring this example up. It's called material design. One of the hardest things we do is designing a platform so that the user actually not only understands the platform, but is engaged by the platform. And just designing a set of icons is very costly and very hard. Google has invested heavily in a project called Material Design over the last years, designing many hundreds of icons and many menu alternatives, buttons, and most importantly, design core principles. And when you go to the GDL today, you will actually find the same concepts, the same elements that they use on the GDL, without any strings attached at all, because Google has released all the principles, all their investments under a free license so that anyone can use it. This has brought us much closer to getting to the point where we actually can bring a ready product to the user much, much faster. I just want to mention this because this is one way of reusing something, an investment, a heavy investment, without any of us contributing, but actually a large American corporation. On the other end, I'll afterwards show you guys the demo of the platform. But we want to be as open as our partners has been with us, and as the market players has been. So we've actually developed another way into our content, and that is a technical term called API. This means that if any one of you here right now want to consume our content, you will have access to the exact same titles that we have on the GDL if you want to develop your own app. So any project out there wanting to create a different version with, for instance, specifically focusing on accessibility or specifically focusing on a country like Nigeria, you can access all the content here. And the example that you see here on the screen now is called an image API. And that just shows that we've also broken down everything into pieces. So if you only want to use the pictures and you want to create your own books based on the same pictures, you have access to the entire collection, many thousands of pictures in the GDL as it is today. And we think this, especially in some of the newer projects, I'll mention one afterwards called Asafir 100, where they'll actually put tremendous effort into the illustrations themselves. So we think they have value on their own. I just want to mention these things because when you compare our project to many of the other similar projects in the market, these elements are truly important to us because we want everyone to have that reuse option of the GDL platform, not only as an end consumer. I'll do a demo afterwards, of both these two. The last minute, I'm just going to run through in this part of the segment some of the harder stuff, the technical stuff, because our experience scanning through thousands of copies, thousands of titles, is that too many of them have elements with them that should be crafted better. The content itself is more or less always good. So the pictures are great. The pedagogical efforts have been put into it. There's some actual technical stuff that will make him more or less unusable in the future. And because we're short on time, I'm going to focus on one piece that is more important than the others, and that is PDF. If you're in a project, you're sitting down in a meeting, and the conclusion is, let's produce this in PDF, and only PDF, please have them call me. Not send me an email, just call me. Just call me. Because the upside of doing that right from the start is tremendous. The downside of doing that over again is it's on the other side. We just made that change, that republishing in the 7 Ethiopian languages, and the cost wasn't that large. I think it was $3,000 for 600 titles to make it right. But we had to go punching for the original files because they were somewhere in Addis Ababa. So I had a friend of mine take a taxi to that office, try to find those original files, and we took them home and we did some analysis. It's going to hop on. And what I will send you guys, or have our colleagues send you afterwards, is what's called GDL content guidelines. There are 6 elements in these guidelines addressing file formats, accessibility, metadata, content quality, where we have our own set of quality assurance parameters. And these guidelines, if you follow these in any way when you develop content, you will not only be ready for the GDL, but you will always, at the end of that process, have enhanced the quality of your content. And on our test platform right now, we have between 6,000 and 7,000 titles. And only maybe 5% of them tick off on all these boxes, unfortunately. But we're working on that element. And you can find more information on, let me see here, homedigitallibrary.io. If you go in there, you'll find both the quality assurance parameters. And what's great about the quality assurance aspects, where URC has been a central facilitator, is that those parameters, or those guidelines of quality, has been approved by the board of the Global Book Alliance, as well as NUDA. So there's been some thought into putting those out there in a way that can be reused by others. So that is my short introduction. When we get back, I'll do a demo of the platform itself. It's probably why most of you guys are here. I'll also show the magic of translations afterwards. I think that is an exciting part of this endeavor that we need to explore further. Yes. Thank you guys for the first session.
I'm going to give about 2 minutes for break, but that we have time for about 2 questions, and then I want to allow the others that are online to share with us our questions, and we will look at them online during our break, and we'll come right back to them after the break. So you have the local audience here first.
You said no PDF. What would you rather have us producing?
That is a great question. We have 2 file options, EPUB and HTML. Okay. And EPUB, of course, itself containing HTML as a primary format. If you want, I can send you the guidelines as well on the file. The reason for that is that those are flexible formats that will allow for adaptation after we have imported it. So EPUB and HTML, both widely used global standards, not specific for the GDL.
Illustrations. Content is nice to translate,
yep.
But finding appropriate illustrations for many places is difficult. What you've just described, I could imagine downloading a whole book from Africa, ditching all the content, seeing if some of those are you filing or indexing any of the graphics or the art separately from me having to go into all of those books and see if there's something useful?
One of the big issues with most of the content is that we lack what's called alt text, describing what's in the picture. For all the pictures that have that text, you will be able to search for it. And of course, there's some keywords on the book that you can still attach to the picture. So the book is about a line. But again, you just illustrate for me, for all of us, how important it is to have some of the technical aspects correctly made to facilitate that reuse. But technically, the answer is yes. But I know as a fact that some of the pictures lack that possibility because they're simply not described as they're.
It's specifically African ones we've been looking for, and you've just described many of these books online now have, the 300 books or so have got this for Africa, or mainly African, but I'm still going, am I going to have to go through all of them?
No.
They don't yet meet the GDL guidelines. Okay, great.
African Storybook has made a tremendous effort in Africa on creating titles that are relevant for many countries. We're working closely with them to do that quality assurance as well. Also on tagging the books.
Who are you working with? I'm sorry.
African Storybook. I mean, we have a representative from African Storybook here. She can explain more about.
And we have a library of images, a very large library of images that you can access through GDL, right?
Yeah, we're working with.
Or on our own website.
Yes. Okay.
One of our great partners, both having their own platform, but really working hard to provide content to the GDL. It really shows how collaborative this effort has been. We can take more questions in the break and after the break.
Yeah.
I think I'll actually start with, so in this session we're going to demo the platform. Plain and simple. First go through some of the main features for any users that will enter our platform, and then afterwards I'm going to just briefly show an example of translation. But first, I'd like to just take a couple of the online questions. One is super relevant. I'll read it out. I like the human element of translation. Anyone can go into the translation part. But who ensures that quality, context, and culture perspective are maintained? And of course, this is a core element. If you take a book, say, from India, and you translate it into use in Amharic or for Ethiopia, how can you ensure that the culture aspect is sort of maintained? And for these books, there are mainly two things. There are pictures and illustrations, and there are texts. So what we're trying to do is actually search for books or find books into a translation collection that can actually be transported from culture to culture. I personally tried this many times. I've had maybe between 20 and 30 workshops for translation. I've tried taking a book from India to Ethiopia, from Uganda to Ethiopia, and vice versa. And for some titles, they're unusable. There's some elements in the books. For instance, if a book is about a dog, there's some countries that won't translate that at all. If it's about a cow, might be something you don't bring to another country. But mainly, if there are general characters in a book, and the story is universal, it will travel from country to country. And of course, there's a Story Weaver book called Fat King, Thin Dog. And last time I checked, it was translated into 122 languages. Even though the king in that story, he looks Indian. He actually looks Indian, but the story is general, and it's fun, it's engaging. But of course, this is an important aspect. Also, to emphasize this, most of the content on the platform right now is original content. And all the 7 different languages in Ethiopia have different cultural aspects to it. So for instance, from Oromo to Amharic, you can see that the characters have slightly different aspects to them. And the same goes for some of the other Ethiopian languages. So there's one question. I think I have time for one more. Question: Francophone Africa could really profit from having all or most of the books available in French as well. Translate them into local languages. Yes. This is, of course, something we have been talking about, because today we only have one large bridge language, and that is English. It's not an underserved language at all, but still it's on our platform with that sort of thing in mind. For now, we're not going to go with French. We're actually doing other languages in that part of Africa, but I would not say that is a definite no for French at all. We have the option. We're getting other large sort of multi-regional languages up. We're getting Arabic, for instance, We're also working with Spanish, which in some cases, of course, could be part of an underserved community, but it is not an underserved language. So it's a good idea, but for now, French is not part of our plan. I will see if there's time when we get to the end for the last questions. But for now, I'm just going to demo the platform. If you want to try this out yourself at any point, you can go into digitallibrary.io. And on the questions of culture, I think the book that is on the top here, which comes from Pratham book, Storyweaver, is one example. It's about a girl that dreams up a friend, and she herself is her best friend, plays around with her. So she goes in her sleep, and she has her dreams about what she will do when playing with a friend that is actually not a real friend. Both the illustrations and the story, we think, is something that can travel from country to country, even though it's an Indian story. But to go back to the platform, it's very simple. So envision yourself being a child in Kenya or in Uganda. Use your mobile telephone, you come in, and you see this for the first time. You have two options: either start reading English, if that is your choice, or you can go and pick the language. And in the menu, at this point, you will see Hausa from Nigeria, Kiswahili, number of other languages, and at the bottom here, you'll have Bangla and Amharic. If I choose Kiswahili, that is my first step. But as a user, we have good reason to believe that choosing the language is truly important. I choose my language, and at this point, you can do a number of things. The most important is to choose your category. In this language, we only have one category called library books. We actually, I can show that afterwards, have two categories: library books, or general reading books, and then we have government-approved books that we call classroom books. When you've done that, chosen language and chosen category, you can browse on level. And we have based our levels on this category actually on two other projects: so the African storybook levels and the levels from Pratham books. You will see that the same books will appear at the same levels on our platform. And it goes to level 4, and after level 4, we have what's called read aloud. And to read, you can enter the level. Just because I'm going to demo myself, I will go back to a language I understand. Back to English. And when I scroll down to a level, I can either just go into a book, or I can browse for more books. You can see here another contributor called Book Dash from South Africa. Beautiful books, beautiful illustrations. They have contributed with a number of titles that today are available on the platform. And from there on, it's fairly easy. You find the book, and you start reading the book. You can scroll through the book, as is here. And just to emphasize the details, we started testing this reading experience with kids in Ethiopia. And we immediately saw that the navigation didn't hold on their phones, on their sizes. And just closing the book was a big issue. The product you see of this simple page here is actually been retested 3 times to have this quality and have this user experience across platforms. If you want to close it, you can also, of course, download the book as an EPUB and, as earlier mentioned, a PDF format. We're not against PDF, we're just against PDF being the only option that you have. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too.
I didn't see it before now, I'm sorry. And this user experience is actually better on a mobile telephone. And the cool thing is that we have had the option of having kids sit down with their peers and learn how to use learn a digital device for the first time. So we've actually tried this out on kids that we know have no prior knowledge whatsoever. If I go back to the front page, Let's choose another book. We can go up and take a level 1 book. This is again a book from Bravo Books, and we can read it or we can download it. But I want to quickly go into the aspect of translation. And of course, this book here has a license called CC BY, which is a Creative Commons license that allows for many things. And what I'm about to do, if I were to do it with a book with the copyright, I would be in violation of the license of that book. So it's very practical. It's not a sort of an open philosophy. If we were to do this with copyrighted materials, we would break or we would violate that license. Here is an aspect called translation. And the cool thing here is that you can do this on a mobile phone as well as a computer. The original language is English, and you get a list of languages. We're to try to find, you might find your own language. You got Bengali, India here. I'm not going to try to do that.
Let's do Cherokee.
Let me go for, and you see the list is on. We're actually considering having some sort of search right now. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. We're close to the end. If I go for Norwegian, Bokmål, which is my language, within a couple of clicks, I can then start translating. And just to be clear, this is a platform all on its own, again, scalable. So if we at one point start translating more complex materials, the crowding platform will support that. And now I'm in translate mode, and I'm going from being a consumer to actually being a person that produces a new version of the book in seconds. And in this case, you get a split screen where you have the original content on one side and you have the translation options on the other. And here you get a bit of help from automated translation. At this point, we're using Microsoft Translation. We're considering also adding Google Translation. But more often than not, if you try this on Kiswahili, it will end up being not so good. And again, if you just go down and choose a text piece, in this case, I will translate the author. And that is a sentence that has been translated very many times before. So, forfatter in Norwegian is author, and then the name. So I will get good help on that one. After getting that help, I can just hit save. The first page is actually translated. Or, I'm sorry, the first sentence is translated. That's forfatter, then we go to translator. I hit save. This is a process where you actually either use what you find down here on the help, or you write the actual translation here. In this case, I'm just going to do one sentence here because then it'll actually show up in the original book. I'm not sure that's entirely correct. So I'll go back and do it correctly later. And as you see here, walking through this process is only timely based on the number of characters. The application itself will actually not. It's fairly easy to walk through a book. So if you take a level 1 book, it will typically take you 20 to 25 minutes to do a translation of a title like this. So actually on the Education Alliance conference in November, we're trying to do a real live translation at the event. So you can actually see the title being transformed as the event unfolds. And when you're finished with this, if I can do the, there we go. You can then go back to your translation element in our platform, sync up the book, and you will see now already that some of the pages in the book should be saved with Norwegian text. Here you see forfatter and so forth. And as an admin, I can see which translator on a global basis has translated the most. And of course, we have features for proofreading. So if a group of people of 20 students do translation in masses, we can have lecturers and linguistics experts do quality assurance on top. It's all seamlessly integrated into the platform. And at one point, we want to do what Khan Academy does. They have country teams translating as new content comes in. So for instance, in our country, we have a team translating to Norwegian. And I've gotten this question a lot. We have schools, and we have a need for content in a new language, but we have no staff. We have no linguistics experts. What can we do? Well, the cool thing here is that this platform is integrated with a bunch of professional translating groups, companies. So on the fly now, I can go in and tick off books that I want to, for instance, translate into Bangla, and get offers from 3, 4 different vendors, and then can translate the books integrated into the platform and seamlessly get those books back on the GDO platform. We did a test on this with Arabic 4 weeks ago. It cost about $2,000, $1,000 for 20 books, which I think is about $20 a pop. And they were ready within a week. So if you have the funding, but you don't have the people, you can actually integrate it into the platform and translate books into a new language. And that is, for lack of a better word, it's pretty cool. If I were to do the demo now, I would, from deciding which books to translate to having you can use your credit card if you want to go really simple. I would be sending the booking, the order of translation within less than 5 minutes. I just want to emphasize this because you can see that I started translating. I chose a book and I started translating. And you have 2 ways to go with that. Either everyone creates their own version, which would be not, it would be natural. So if you did one, you would have your own version of the same book. But we have gone the Wikipedian way. So if you do a Wikipedia article about a mountain, if another person comes in, they have to write on the same page. And then you can discuss how high is the mountain, what's its name, and so forth. So often there's a discussion on how the end product of a Wikipedia article should look. We're doing the same thing. So if there are 2 people working on one language for the one book, they will have to cooperate. And we're not that certain that this will be this is for the future. Let's see, but we want to collaboration. We want to encourage that people don't do the same job over and over again. So this is an important aspect. When you search for content now, you can see that it's all Creative Commons and it's all on our platform. We have talked earlier about having a cross-platform search, including commercial vendors providing content. We might do that in the future. I just got a question during the break today about that. That is why I'm bringing it up. But it would more or less look the same because the search would be the same, only that we would have commercial content as well as Creative Commons content. Of course, the translation bit would not be relevant for that content because that is a whole different ballgame. Because I failed to show the example of language with 2 categories, I'm going to go back to Amharic. Amharic is really my favorite language after Norwegian because it's so beautiful. If you see handwriting of Amharic, it's like art. Writing my name in Amharic is like art. It's really exciting. And you can see, and this is important because we have 2 categories. Mixing books that are not formally approved with those that are approved, we found that to be very difficult. Also leveling-wise, the different leveling, different structures of the books. So we actually have 2 categories. And also in terms of quality assurance, those are different. So I'm now at library books. If I go to classroom books, you'll actually see a great batch of content produced by a project funded by the American government and worked through by Save the Children, I think mainly. And these are actually 700 high-quality titles in 7 different Ethiopian languages. And this is, it was like striking gold when we found these titles. And I'm going to just also open one book here because these are actually in the sort of books that are not in EPUB, that are not in HTML. What happens then is that, PDF is created to be stable, not changeable at all. So you can download the book, but you cannot do anything else with it. So you cannot change it, we cannot use the pictures, for instance, in the API, and you cannot translate it. And it's actually something that we're doing right now together with the American government, funding a team in Addis, take all these titles and pulling apart and creating them as EPUBs and HTML. But as content goes, they're of high quality, and you can see the illustrations are really, really, really great. Approved by the Ethiopian government, page by page, book by book. So that is the platform. In terms of performance, this has been quite an issue. So we've actually taken all the content and duplicated it on different servers all around the world, so that there's the distance between the user and the content is as short as you can get. And of course, this is a costly effort, something that we think we can bring to the table if any one of you have content that you want to make sure that it is available on multiple platforms. So I think that was my demo for today. I hope some of you might go into the platform and try it out for yourself. I encourage you to do it on phone. I encourage you also, if you want to try translation, to do it on the phone and see how that works. I thought translation would always be on laptop, but at one point I saw some students in Ethiopia going into a corner with their phones, and it was not to go on Facebook, but it was actually to start translating on a device they were familiar with, and they were really effective on that. So thank you guys for listening in. If you have any further questions.
Hi, I'm Heather with Room to Read. Quick question on curation of the content. For example, on the ministry-approved books, is there a plan for when ministries change and they have a different set of books they've approved, that some of those books would move over to the library if some have been disapproved for that matter? What is the plan for the library management?
This is, I think, just happened in Kenya. They changed the curriculum immensely.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this would happen all the time. This is actually on a country-to-country basis, partner-to-partner basis, and we're solely dependent on, in this case, Save the Children and USAID giving us a ping saying something is happening, we want to change something, and then we re-import it. From the point that we get that ping, the message, it's very easy for us to actually make that new import happen. And another good question, because it illustrates the importance of doing it flexible, because our prediction is over the next 10 years, those structures will change immensely in these countries. I think in Kenya, they started changing it before they have implemented the last version properly. So it's rapidly changing.
Thanks.
Hi, Beth Johnson with the Basic Education Coalition. I have a question about the levels. So how do you classify a book as being at a different level, and then for the user, how do they know the appropriate level to be looking at?
So for the classroom categories, there are different levels from different countries. So that you will see when you go into the Nigerian ones, they have slightly different leveling than the ones from Ethiopia. For the standard levels on library books, we have a set of levels where we try to do a connection book by book. So for instance, we have content from Asafir coming in from an ACR project, and those have a different level altogether. But we have to do that mapping between their level and our level. That was actually books I was supposed to show today. Because of shortage of time, I haven't been able. But it's sort of an announcement that I want to give credit to, as we're talking about quality, to the ACR project creating or doing the competition, because those 100 titles, you should follow our platform, because when they come online with Arabic and English, it's really, they're great illustrations, high quality content, and if you want to start working on them, it's great. But the leveling on those are at based on an Arabic standard, but we will not adopt that standard language by language on library books. We will connect them on these 4 levels. And it's actually sort of a subjective thing. You level 1 is easy, and level 4 has more text, and read aloud can be any one of them. It hasn't been classified yet. But based on user experience, they seem to understand immediately that the first book they look at, sort of if they're at the first level, they will explore further down if it's too easy. So level 1 to 4 is also something that if you play a game, leveling is something you experience as a standard. So level 4 would normally be more difficult than level 1. But to be honest, this might change as we grow a bigger pile of content.
Kristen, can I just point people also to Jennifer and her team, because the Global Reading Network has a staff slot for a content manager. Now, obviously, this content manager is not fluent in all the languages of the library, but that person is on deck and on board to help sort of gatekeep issues like this. So, I noticed a book on the library that's slotted into level 4, but I'm a fluent speaker of that language and I know it's really a level 2. Like, use Jennifer and her team. They're here for that help with leveling. They get that to the right person.
Yeah, so kind of along those lines, what training is planned for teachers and how they could use this platform to curate books at the appropriate level for their students?
Super question.
That's a very good question. I think for the Global Book Alliance, it would be something that we would have to look into. For our sake, we are actually developing the platform, trying to focus on that. But of course, for us, that would be a key issue. If you want people to use it, you need that competence building. And in Ethiopia, we see that because there's been competence building as part of that project, and as part of also a UNESCO project. And the feedback from that is that competence in this sort of capacity building is crucial. If not, they will be consumers and not reproducing anything actually.
What is the plan for long-term sustainability of this platform? Like, is the Norwegian government planning to be super wonderful and keep hosting it for a really long time, or like, what is the plan there?
First of all, I mentioned the American government pushing for the Global Book Alliance. I want to just say this as a strategic move from the government. I'm not a government employee myself at Nordahl. I'm just working on the project. It's been great working with Nordahl and their team because they understand the meaning of doing this long term. We're doing it until 2020, and there are strong signals, very strong signals that they will do this as a global common good for a much longer period of time. We do this with it's called a seed vault sort of building on Svalbard in the Arctic for actual seeds.
Yeah.
From all around the world. So we have that metaphor to sort of attach to. So we've been through the same process. And of course, in budget-wise, that building is in the Arctic, underground, different budget altogether. But we're hoping to do some of the modeling of that project and maybe get 10% of the budget.
Interesting.
So, but it's looking good because sustainability sort of depends on someone providing the funds, and it seems like that is going to be the Norwegian government, yes.
Norway.
Yeah, go Norway. Just a quick follow-up to your question. Do you have planned a page within this that would be like how to use this or instructions to teachers or whatever? So it would be embedded even if no one ever got around to training them in that country?
I actually got that question in terms of the translation part this last week. You should have thought about that earlier. But we're working on a tutorial. We have very good tutorials on quality assurance, on technical standards. That's my home domain. But we will have tutorials, probably in collaboration with the Book Alliance, to show how to use it, show how to translate it, and of course go through some of the quality assurance aspects. The first tutorial as a video will come out on quality assurance. We just taped that last week and it will be online by the end of this week. Yes.
I wanted to add to that, just, yes, we'll have the tutorials. We've started discussing with the Book Alliance, also putting together some of the best practices of different digital platforms in terms of how they work with schools and how they work with the communities to provide some other guidelines. So anybody wants to kind of launch a project, what have other projects done to get communities and schools engaged?
I was hoping to ask a question of the USAID people. Is that for later, or?
You can do that. Is it ready?
Okay. I'm Judith Baker from African Storybook. I've been involved, or we've been involved in this process from the beginning, and USAID has really been instrumental in bringing together the world around us. I don't think this would have happened had it not been for coordination in Washington, even though there is fabulous work being done in Africa and India and Norway and so on. There had to be a coalescing of that work. And I am really hoping that you who are new to the process will see this as a huge opportunity to really make a difference in literacy. I don't think it's going to happen without leadership from USAID, because it's very hard for others to bring everybody together. And so when we did sit on these planning committees and working groups and so on, we had ministers of education from all over the world who may not have even been that interested in literacy. But it was the coordination from USAID, I think, that made the difference. So I'm wondering if you have a sense of your own commitment, of how this fits into the broader USAID goals. I would love to hear more, because we need it.
Well, thank you very much for those comments. And yes, USAID is committed to continue to work with and support the Global Book Alliance. We are, though, very much interested, we are sort of incubating this idea. But we are very much interested in looking at support from other donors and other partners in moving this forward. Because, as you say, USAID we are very good at bringing people around the table, but we need help in moving this forward. So, I mean, it's been wonderful that Norway has stepped forth and taken on this huge responsibility of the Global Digital Library. But there are many other parts of the book chain that we are looking for additional support from. I should also mention that for Africa, we are partnering with IDEA, and they have been very good at helping us, particularly in terms of working with ministries of education in Africa. And I think that there has been some real success in the work that they've been doing, and we're committed to continue to work with IDEA in helping to, move things forward in terms of the work that we're doing on the continent. So, but we are committed, but also looking for additional commitment and additional partners and people who are interested in supporting this initiative. Let us know, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
But in addition to funding, how about coordination?
Well, we will continue for the time being. USAID will continue to coordinate and ensure that there's a coordinating body. But eventually we're hoping to see this move. I'm not sure where it would move to, but to some other coordinating body at some point in the future. But for now, rest assured, USAID is committed to move this forward.
I want to also just stress the coordination from Brooke, from Linda, and their team. They just brought on a content specialist. Is crucial for us. And I also want to emphasize the competitions by ACR is really shown for us. I'm so sad I didn't get to do the demo today. I'll encourage every one of you to come to Education Alliance. I'll talk Tony into doing a proper demo of that, because that role of prioritizing accessibility for work, like you've done in Kenya with Hitam, and quality throughout the whole product that you're going to deliver is crucial for everything we do. And that requires two things: funding and that leadership, and that focus. And that has already been done by the US government through their involvement in the Book Alliance. But for us, it's crucial, because again, we're only doing the platform, not the content.
So I've heard a lot about Africa specifically. It's a huge continent.
Yeah.
And I know you talked about Ethiopia and Kenya and Nigeria and Ghana. So I was just wanting to know if you're specifically focusing on West Africa and East Africa only, because some of the countries you're mentioning seem to be the more developed ones in Africa. And I would like to understand if there's a better plan for reaching less developed countries, as Nigeria and Ethiopia tend to be more developed on the continent.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, if you take Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Egypt, you'll have maybe 40% of the mobile phones in.
Yeah.
I know that, again, USAID have great content from Malawi. The ACR team and Book Alliance organized a workshop in South Africa in May, where we got to look at some of the content development happening there. We're doing a separate scan of the entire continent of Africa, what kind of projects are under development, and there are many countries on that list, apart from those I mentioned now. At least 10 countries, and based on what I see from Malawi and Tanzania, I have seen some samples. They're of really high quality, really high quality. We can, if you want, I can also send you a list of the content projects that we see now, without guaranteeing, of course, that they will be on the platform. But it's a very good question, because we should also push for the countries that are not at the top of the pile in terms of being mobile.
I wanted to make sure we get questions online, but also make a comment that one of the work, we're doing some work with Global Book Alliance now to sort of research languages, come up with some criteria in terms of prioritization of languages. So not necessarily based on where some of the major projects are, but looking at some other criteria to make sure we get at some of the more marginalized languages. But there are a couple of things we want to look at in terms of making sure there's possible potential for use, et cetera. And so I wanted to...
I just want to use 30 seconds to say that one of my first translation events, I had the privilege of having 15 countries, 15 languages in one room. One of the languages was Lukunzu from Uganda. And there was a teacher there, used the whole day, translated 2 books, and these were the 2 first reading books in Lukunzu ever. And he was like, he was walking out. He walked home with 2 books. But of course, that sort of gives the feeling of what kind of change can you make for a community for the smaller languages. Yeah, just want to mention that. Any more questions? Is the GDL dependent on funding, which is limited of time? I think we had that question earlier. The answer is not. Is no. We think we have long-term funding. Do you have the content guidelines? Yes. You have the content guidelines, but if someone wants to upload a book, how is quality assurance, etc.?
The accuracy of the translation.
Thank you. First of all, it's important you cannot just upload a book. You can bring us a batch of titles, and we will upload it for you. What happens is we actually upload it to a sort of a side platform, and then you as a contributor and a third party will look at the titles and go through the quality assurance steps with us, and then we will publish it online. The only way you can actually do something on the platform and produce yourselves right now is by translation. If you have a batch of content, we have a process, easy to describe process for you to go through all the elements you need to be able to get the content online. There's no way right now to yourself publish content online. Like, this is different than, for instance, Storyweaver, where you actually can translate and publish immediately. That is an open source good way to go, but we have sort of gone the other way and said we need to have quality assurance on every bits that we have before we go live. So that is question number 1.
Yes, similar question from Kathy. You said that some can even make money with free resources sourced from the Global Digital Library. Does it mean that you can download books from the GDL, print them, and sell them?
First of all, thank you for that great question. I should have emphasized that clearly, and the answer is yes. That is the magic. Any print shop on any corner in, for instance, Tanzania or Kenya today can download the book, print it, and sell it in their shop. No problem at all. Of course, this goes for the
CCY license.
Those are not non-commercial. So be conscious when you find a book and look at the license and read what it says. But 90% of the content you can sell afterwards and make profit from.
What platform software hosts the auto-translate tool, and how is it developed? Here at Save the Children, we are developing an internal global thematic library platform to provide all STC staff with a single place to access and share thematic results. This type of feature would be very useful.
Yeah. The platform is called Crowded. It is actually a commercial company, but it has what's called an open source model used by both us and Khan Academy. where you pay nothing, you use the platform, and you can also integrate with it. So it looks like it's a part of our platform, but it's actually a platform called Cloudy. And it's evolving on a month-to-month basis on features and capability. And you're not depending on that platform. So immediately when the translation is over, you get the translation back to your own platform, no strings attached at all. But the answer is Cloudy. You'll find it on the web.
Hi, I'm Deborah with All Children Reading, and I just wanted to say that we did 2 webinars. One was on how to create accessible content and how to create accessible images, and that was in support of our Book Boost competition, which you can tap on that over there was one of the winners. Michelle's online and she'll share those links, but those are good resources. Those specs would be the same as required for the GDL, so just a resource that might be helpful.
I wanted to thank Kristen for joining us today. I think this is so exciting, and I'm really happy that you came and you actually, I think, brought up a couple of questions that we're still sort of grappling with in terms of process. So I thank you for some of your comments. Robert, I would love for you to close for us and share us your final thoughts. And I wanted to give a round of applause for Kristen for joining us.
So I have very few closing remarks, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank our colleagues from the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, because without their generous support, this wonderful local digital library that we've all seen today would not exist. So we're really, really excited about that, and really thankful for their enthusiasm and support, and particularly for Krista, who's been leading the pack. I also want to thank many of you who are in this room, because you have provided content to this library. You've provided specs on how to help in terms of getting people who are designing these books. There's a lot of work that I know that people here have contributed to, and it is a group effort, and without all of you, we would not be where we are today. So we will take this forward. We will be looking at how we will incorporate this into the work that we do with our partners in the field, our ministries of education, because as you all have mentioned here today, and we all realize, in order for this to be used, we're going to have to provide teaching and training and support to the teachers and parents and everyone else who you expect to be able to use this. But thank you all very, very much for attending today, and thank you very much, Krista, for this great presentation.